Today we're going to look at Gonzaga versus UConn, which occurred this past Friday. In particular, we're going to discuss why I think Gonzaga is probably not a top 5 team and why UConn is a top 5 team. We're going to discuss the simple system that UConn ran to essentially get easy looks whenever they wanted and why Gonzaga struggled on offense. So the first thing I want to touch on is where actually Gonzaga got some good looks, and most of their good looks happened because of one person, and that was Nembhard. An absolutely huge percentage of their offense went through him and his ability to generate open looks. Routinely, essentially, Gonzaga would allow Nembhard to, maybe with the assistance of ball screen, to get downhill and get whatever looks essentially he was able to generate. As I've talked about with Purdue and Zach Edey, the issue with this is that sometimes it means that your offense is fairly stagnant and you rely on one person to do too much of the heavy lifting. And then the other issue is that simply defenses will adjust accordingly. They won't let you play one-on-one, even though routinely they did essentially let him play one-on-one. And he did have success beating guards off the dribble. But the issue is this isn't going to happen every single time. So even in instances where you get the one-on-one drives, it's still going to be a difficult shot. And relying on one person so much means the defense is going to adjust and force those difficult shots. Then we switch to the UConn side of things, and I'm going to focus on one thing in particular for UConn today. We're just going to talk about their ball screens and how essentially the ball screens allow them to get open looks every single time. Not every single time, a huge percentage of the time, and with a very simple, essentially, action, and then letting that create future action. So the first thing is if you get separation on the ball screen, just drive and attack off the bounce. And then the second step, the follow-up from this, is simply if you get the big to pay too much attention to you and there's no help on the backside, simply hit the big man when he's open. Boom, same thing. Even though this isn't technically a ball screen, I kind of consider dribble handoffs and ball screens the same in my eyes. So it's the same concept. You're forcing the big to do something. So here we can see too much help is applied and frankly a wide open look for the big for UConn. Okay, so same thing, get a little action, and the nice thing is this is really in closed space, so this shows good handling and good awareness by both parties. And so when this little drop-off happens right here, 32, frankly, he could kick it out to an open three, and probably that's better spacing, but the fact that he feels confident to just go finish through a guard and not get a charging call in the process shows good awareness, good IQ. So then one of the things Gonzaga tried to do is because they're like, oh, well, we can't guard him one-on-one. We can't just play the ball screen because they're going to beat us with the roll. We'll probably have to hedge to take it out of the player's hands. However, the issue is when you hedge like this, that means for a period of time, the roller is open or the roller has one help defender on him, which means that the opposite side wing or the near side wing is the one that's open. So watch. As this roll happens, Watson helps down, which means that 11 is wide open for a three. And as we talked about, UConn has unbelievable shooters around the perimeter, so they punish this aggressively. So here we can see hedge, boom. In this situation, you don't even necessarily have to throw it out if you can just beat them. The hedge comes out, but does it really stop 10's momentum? So as soon as the hedge comes out, does he take a backward step? Maybe a slight backward step, but then he's getting downhill, and you have essentially in this situation, two bigs that are trying to stop a guard, and that's a really tough task, and he gets an easy layup at the rim. And so the final thing that we saw Gonzaga do is okay, so first off, we can't stop the roll in the beginning. We can't just stop him off the dribble, and we can't just stop the first pass out, so we're going to have to essentially rotate and help. So 4 comes down, he provides a little bit of help on both players, frankly. So then 22 is okay, I got the corner, but Connecticut is so good with this extra pass, and they have shooters here, 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 which means you're going to be pushed to limits no matter what, and they're so well coached that, frankly, this is an open look, but then also kicking into number 2 is also another great open look. And then finally we get to what I think is the biggest issue for Gonzaga. This is why I think they probably won't be a top 5 team when it comes down to the end of the year, and that's what I'm going to call essentially the Watson, Stormer, and Huff issue. The reason Nembhard has to carry so much of the load is because they're not able to generate offense from other directions. So you can see here, immediately as the ball gets passed in the post, literally nobody even cares what he's doing on the perimeter. Watson is left 100% alone. You just go down to double it, and that just makes it so much harder to create good offense. The three of them are shooting either below 30% or are shooting very few threes in general. So here we can see that the reason he gets an open look is because the defense is prioritizing the rim. They're okay with letting him shoot this. And yeah, he's going to make them every once in a while, but the issue is he's going to miss them more. And we can actually see the impact of him making this three. Like, it literally directly leads to Gonzaga getting an easy bucket the next possession. Okay, so because he made the last three, now three is like, oh, maybe I got to worry about him a little bit more, and so I got to leave the basket to go out there. When in reality, that's you have to realize that you're conceding something, and that's the thing you're conceding. Three should just stay home to prevent the layup. So the three players we're talking about are 22, 33, and then 4, I believe. And so if you're going to have this number of players on the floor at one point, and 3 of them can't shoot, or are not clear threats from the perimeter, that makes it so much harder to get good looks on offense. We saw consistently that Gonzaga would settle for these mid-range contested floaters. These are not good shots, objectively not good shots unless your name is Kevin Durant. So on one hand, you saw UConn get relatively open looks either at the rim or behind the arc, and on this hand, you're seeing difficult off-balance one-handed or two-handed shots not at the rim. You can win games in the shorthand like this, but it's really hard to win them consistently when you're taking these difficult shots. And so while UConn probably plays better defense than average, the issue is your end goal isn't to win the majority of your regular season games. It's to win the games at the end, frankly. And so you're going to be facing these good teams. If you can't beat them, then you're going to run into a lot of difficulties. So the 3 conclusions for today are: 1, Gonzaga has decent offense. They have the ability to get decent offense, especially if they find somebody or a couple players that can help space the floor to allow their drivers and athletes to get downhill. 2 is that UConn has a lot of versatility on offense and how one simple action can create a multitude of good looks simply for UConn. And then 3 is Gonzaga's probably got to find some way to get more spacing on the floor or create action that allows to create spacing in the meantime without having great three-point shooters. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.